we had already seen massive AAA games be downgraded and ported to the Nintendo Switch. So when I heard that The Outer Worlds was coming to this console, I was blown away. How would some port studio be able to downgrade this massive open world RPG and cram it on a tiny handheld tablet? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to D-Life HD. This is Victor, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Outer Worlds for Nintendo Switch. So buckle up, and without any further ado, let's jump right into it.
Switch it up. Switch it up. I was a worker, had to upgrade to a boss. I had to switch it up. Used to live in the hood, but had to upgrade to a loft. I had to switch it up.
Alright guys, wow, there is a lot to talk about here, but we're just going to jump right into this. Let's start off with the game mode. Now, upon starting this game, like most standard RPGs, you're greeted with a character selection, or creator if you will, and also a selection of game modes, and by that I mean difficulties. This game has a wide variety of difficulties actually. You can play on just a standard mode, which is pretty well balanced in conversation and also battle. Or you can play on a lesser so on the battle side mode and just go along for the story. On the other hand, though, when it comes to the other extreme, you can play through the game on extreme difficulty and have things like your partners, when they die, never be able to be respawned again, and just drastic measures happen when you end up failing or doing poorly. So when it comes to game modes, really all there was different difficulty settings, and then you can jump in with the main campaign. Because like most RPGs of this nature, you're only there for the campaign, you jump in, you play through it, and then you jump out. Now, there's also post-game stuff, but we might get to that later. Moving along, we have the UI and graphics. Alright, this is a touchy topic for this port, because obviously this is an extremely beautiful game on other consoles. And if you watched my previous video, you may have heard me talk about ports, downgraded ports that is, on the Nintendo Switch. I gushed about them, I talked about how I loved them, things like Doom and other such, like Wolfenstein 2 and The Witcher. I love seeing these AAA ports come to the Switch. And a lot of times, these are gorgeous games, very realistic in graphics, and so it takes a lot of processing power and GPU in order to push these high-quality games. The Outer Worlds is no exception when it comes to the graphics. This is a gorgeous and realistic game. Everything is very dark in tone and gritty. Unfortunately, this is where the game falls short drastically. The game is straight ugly, I have to say. It fails in many places. Now, is it as bad as the ARC port for Nintendo Switch, which would run sometimes at the upwards of hundreds of pixel count? No, it's not that bad. But being in the open world areas of the environment, everything is just very blobby, textures are completely dumbed down. A lot of the character interaction when it comes to non-playable characters, all of their designs are extremely worked around in order to fit on this tiny console and also to fit on the cartridge that this game comes on. They actually managed to fit most of the game on the cartridge other than a 6 GB patch, which I would have expected much more. For instance, Doom on its own is a 10 GB patch at least out of the box. So in order to fit it on that cartridge mostly, and also to get it running on this console, they really had to dumb down the graphics. And this is probably where the game falls its shortest, I can say that. UI is rather complicated, as it is with most RPGs of this nature. You're going through and upgrading your character with skill points and managing your teammates, and I guess this is also a part of the UI, but a lot of the gameplay is talking with non-playable characters and engaging with them, and there's a lot of options when it comes to speaking. Moving along though, on that same thought, controls and gameplay. Let's talk about the gameplay for a second here first. Like I mentioned earlier, the gameplay is focused around two things and mostly two things only. One, shooting monsters and other enemies. Two, talking. This is a half-talking simulator. What you say has an impact on both your partners and also who you're interacting with. You get to choose what you do. In fact, in one of the opening missions, one of the main characters wants you to reroute the power from a power stationed area to their main area, their main village that they have set up. So that way they can use the extra power. But you have the option to cut their power and reroute it to a smaller, semi-thriving village that's trying to make it on their own and break off from the city. So you have the ability to just make blatant choices. And unfortunately, this is kind of how it is with real life. This is where it becomes really realistic. Some choices will make people mad, and you have no option. You choose one thing, it might make this person mad. You choose another, and it might make this person mad. Essentially, you've got to pick which characters you like the most. And that's what makes these characters super engaging. They all have backstories. They all have intentions and emotions. And the first starting off area, I think it's called by the name of Terra 2. You meet a character named Thomas. And the first character that you recruit on your team has some history with this character. And it's as if they're real. I don't play a lot of games like this. So it really was interesting to see how these characters thrive and exist in this organic feeling environment. Like they have these lives and they're meaningful. On top of that, you can kill any character. If you have the equipment for it, you can kill any character. Now, the people around you might see you and start attacking you if they see you shoot a guy in the head. But if you want to, you can literally walk up and just shoot a character that you've been talking to for a super long time. In the first village, Edgewater, that I discussed earlier with the rerouting the power section, the head of the city, if you want to, you can go up and just shoot him. And I had no idea that you could do this in this game. In fact, I actually did it by accident. Thankfully, you have the ability to have multiple different save files, the way that Breath of the Wild or I think, for example, Skyrim and Fallout do it. So you just are continuously saving, so you can go back to a previous save where you hadn't accidentally shot this guy. But on top of that, if you go around and you just shoot people, you can practically become an outlaw. Your reputation can get downgraded if you just go around and do stupid stuff. And so it allows the player, the character that you are, to really play however you want to. Do you want to be a crazy person? You want to be a psychopath and go around and shoot everybody? You can. Do you want to be somebody who focuses only on conversational skills? You can. Do you want to be somebody who's only a hunter, who doesn't talk to anybody, who drops out of conversations as quickly as possible and just wants to go shoot stuff? You can do that. In fact, along with the RPG mechanics, with leveling up and earning points, you can put those points towards different skills that'll help you be better at those particular areas that you would like to advance. You can lie and you can persuade people, but you can't do that unless you've upgraded yourself to be able to do that enough. So you go around and you level up through conversations and through fighting, and you can put those points back into the area where you want to improve. Maybe you want to be a well-balanced person who's able to persuade but also very strong in combat. Or maybe, like I said earlier, you just want to focus on one of those areas. Alongside the gameplay, there are pretty standard first-person interactive game controls along with this one. Unfortunately, you can't really remap the controls. I don't know if that's something you can do in a PC version, but on the Nintendo Switch at least, it has multiple preset control methods, so I just went with the standard one. Unfortunately, I've also, as I've mentioned earlier in my previous video, still been playing through Doom again, and the jump and crouch buttons are reversed in both of these games, and so going back and forth is just extremely confusing. I wish I could just switch on Outer Worlds the jump button to the B button and crouch to the A button, but that's a little pet peeve. I feel like most games now should have the ability to switch controls to your liking, but that's just my opinion. All right, moving on to the music and sound.
Larry, we are Halcyon's leading brand in frontier justice. The office is writing up promotion. Purchase 3 criminal investigations and the 4th one's free.
Why stay earthbound when prosperity awaits you in the stars? Come to Halcyon, the only colony on the edge of the frontier, owned and operated by corporations. A trip of 10.
Let's just start with sound first. I think that there was a sound downgrade to this game in order to fit it on the cart. One major aspect to the game's size is its multiple paths of dialogue. So the sound and the people talking, it has a little bit of grain to it. It just sounds low bit. And I hate that a lot. I wish it was not that way. I hope they release a patch in the future that allows you to just download higher quality voice lines. That would just make it a lot more engaging, if you know what I mean. On top of that, this is another pet peeve. I've got weird pet peeves. The system navigation, like the main UI sound effects, sound terrible. They sound like a early 2000s interactive video game, educational sim sound effect game. Like they were recorded in a cardboard box. I don't know why. That's just one of my pet peeves. It sounds bad. That's my opinion. And for some reason, it really bugs me. You're going through menus a lot. It's an RPG, and it gets on my nerves. But outside of the sound, the music, while being somewhat lower quality, is amazing. It's super gritty and just very adds to this rustic environment that you're in. You're in a area out in space, a different solar system that's trying to be colonized and industrialized. And there's a lot of darkness that comes with that. There's people that want to take advantage of the system, outlaws, and just, it's a hard environment, this game is. And so the music on top of that first village that you end up going to, Edgewater, has this slow, gritty Western guitar riff sound to it, all acoustic. In fact, a lot of the music in this game is acoustic, and it just adds to the environment so well. A lot of games have really good soundtracks, but I was pretty impressed at the soundtrack. And the main theme to the game that we hear on the menu and throughout is very original, and I think that this really adds to the flavor and atmosphere surrounding the game. All right, finally, let's jump into the story. Now, disclaimer, I have not beat this game. It is a rather short game when it comes to RPGs. It's 20 hours long, from what I've heard. But I don't typically play games this way, but I'm literally trying to do just every side quest I can. So I want to add a lot of time into this game. So I have not completed it, but essentially the gist of the main story is this. Certain humans are able to be put into a hypersleep for a couple of decades and wake up fresh in the future in order to continue and thrive as humanity tries to expand outside of our galaxy and outside of our solar system, that meaning the one we're in now, Earth. And so that's why it's called Outer Worlds, because there are all these planets you can explore in this one particular solar system that follows the main story. So you are a person who is woken up from one of these hyperpods, and from there, you're sent on multiple different missions under a basically crazy scientist who wakes you up named Phineas Wells. And like I mentioned earlier, you can kind of play at your own pace. You might not want to listen to Phineas Wells, but overall, you're kind of following him and his missions because he woke you up. And you're going around and you're just helping people, or maybe you're acting like a jerk, but you're helping these villages get back on their feet and try to stay away from the corporate empires that are taking over different areas. And it's overall just a very engaging story so far from what I've played, and kind of dark, honestly. The Industrial Revolution on its own was a semi-dark time, on Earth and seeing that kind of be the root of the story, but on other planets as we colonize them in the supposed future that this takes place in, it's dark. People live in poverty in this game, and you see that everywhere. And so it's interesting and very engaging, and I can't wait to further it. All right, let's move on to the final rating. Starting off, I'm going to flat out just say my general rating of the game itself is an 8 out of 10. Because it's awesome. It's definitely a Fallout successor, or at least a recovery Fallout game after Fallout 76. I'm not typically one to play these kinds of games, but I was interested because it's such a high-end port. But overall, it's definitely my kind of game, and I hope to play more of these in the future, more RPGs of this nature, Western RPGs, as they're called. But we're going to do something a little bit differently. That's my game score. But let's talk about the port score. The port score, I'm going to flat out say now, is a 5 out of 10, and that's being generous. It is I don't want to say it's a bad port, because what they've pulled off here is no doubt impressive, but there's still a lot of work that could be put into it to make it better. The Witcher is just proof of that. Honestly, I feel like if Panic Button, the people that ported Warframe and Doom to the Nintendo Switch, had jumped on this game as a port job, I feel like they could have done a lot more with it. And I hope to see support in the future, because as it is, playing it in TV mode is not fun at all. I've seen different arguments go different ways, whether or not you should play this TV or handheld. I believe that handheld is the best way, if not tabletop, because you're semi-far away from the screen, and the blurring and the low resolution textures and everything, it's harder to tell when it's in handheld mode and it's smaller and shrunken down. But it's, as I mentioned, it's a lot blurrier inside handheld mode, so really it's up to the player. So that said, we're going to merge those two scores and give this a final score of a 6.5 out of 10. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this review. Thanks for watching. Let us know down in the comments below if you like this video. We love talking to you guys. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like these. Also, don't forget to check the description for a link to our community Discord. Lastly, check our Twitter account for gameplay on the latest releases. But most importantly of all, remember to stay 1 up.